From female players wearing two naked outfits, to shocking confrontations that should have never happened. These are the 15 most inappropriate golf moments ever recorded. And first we start with number 15. Golf has seen its fair share of scandals, but in 2014, one of the sport's biggest stars vanished. Without warning, without explanation, and without a clear answer as to why. Dustin Johnson was a beast on the course, a powerhouse off the tee, a fan favorite, and a player everyone expected to contend for majors. But then, out of nowhere, he announced he was taking a leave of absence to deal with personal challenges. No timeline, no details, just gone. The official story? Johnson was stepping away voluntarily to work on himself. But behind the scenes, the whispers told a much juicier story. Reports surfaced that Johnson had actually been suspended, not just for any reason, but for failing his third drug test, this time for cocaine. The PGA Tour, which has a long history of keeping disciplinary actions hidden, never confirmed or denied it. Instead, they let the speculation run wild. And then the rumors got even darker. His absence wasn't just about drugs, they said. It was about something way more inappropriate. Allegations swirled that he had been caught in an off-course scandal involving another PGA Tour player's wife. That's right, not his own fiancée, but reportedly someone else's very married wife. For months, golf fans were left in the dark. Was this really about personal challenges, or was there something far bigger being swept under the rug? Whatever the truth was, Johnson returned in 2015, cleaned up his image, and went on to win multiple major championships. But to this day, his sudden disappearance in 2014 remains one of the most mysterious and controversial moments in golf history. Which brings us to number 14, to a moment that wasn't about performance-enhancing substances, but rather a performance-enhancing outfit. Or at least, that's what some would say. Golf has always been a sport with strict dress codes, especially for women. While male players have pushed boundaries over the years, female golfers have often faced even harsher scrutiny. Skirt lengths, leggings, and even sleeveless tops have sparked controversy, with some players receiving warnings or fines for outfits deemed inappropriate. But in 2025, Jason Day flipped that tradition on its head during the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. Instead of the usual golf attire, he walked onto the course in a full gray sweatsuit, a look that instantly reminded people of Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman, who's known for his ultra-casual fashion choices. The internet went wild. Some golf purists were outraged, calling it disrespectful and unprofessional. To them, Day's choice of clothing was an attack on the traditions of the game. But others saw it differently. They thought it was refreshing. Why should golf be stuck in the past when every other sport allows athletes to wear comfortable, performance-oriented outfits? It wasn't just a random fashion statement either. The sweatsuit was part of a collaboration with Malbon Golf, a brand that has been challenging golf's rigid dress codes for years. The same brand also sponsors Charlie Hull, who is known for embracing bold, fashion-forward outfits that push the limits of golf's conservative style. While Hull's form-fitting Malbon ensembles are celebrated by some and criticized by others, they highlight the ongoing shift in how golf views personal expression. Whether Day intended it or not, his outfit started a debate about whether golf needs to modernize or if it should stick to its traditional roots. And if Malbon's growing influence is any indication, this might not be the last time golf's dress code gets a serious reality check. Sliding into number 13 is a controversy that shook professional golf and put a legendary player at odds with the PGA Tour. Vijay Singh, a three-time major champion and former world number one, found himself at the center of a doping scandal that wasn't just about a banned substance. It was about the way the tour handled it. In 2013, Singh admitted in an interview with Sports Illustrated that he had used deer antler spray. That might not sound like a big deal at first, but here's the twist. The spray contained IGF-1, a growth hormone that was on the PGA Tour's banned substances list. Singh didn't inject anything, nor did he try to hide it. In fact, he was upfront about it, believing he hadn't done anything wrong. But the tour saw it differently. What followed was a 12-week investigation that turned Singh's life into a public spectacle. He wasn't suspended in the end, but by that time, the damage had already been done. The media frenzy painted him as a cheater, and he felt humiliated by the way the tour handled everything. However, this wasn't even the worst part. Frustrated and determined to clear his name, Singh filed a lawsuit against the PGA Tour, claiming they had mishandled the situation and tarnished his reputation. The legal battle dragged on for 5 years before the two sides finally settled in 2018. The terms of the settlement were never made public, leaving fans to wonder if Singh got the justice he was looking for. Regardless, the case raised important questions about how the PGA Tour enforces its rules and whether players are treated fairly in doping investigations. Here at number 12, we have Tiger Woods on the verge of something special. The 2018 British Open was his shot at redemption, his chance to complete one of the greatest comebacks in golf history. But on the 18th tee, with everything on the line, one idiot in the crowd decided to make it about himself. The crowd held its breath. Silence fell over the course. Woods set his stance, gripped his driver, and began his backswing. And then, boom! Out of nowhere, a voice exploded through the still air. "Free Palestine!" The sudden, random outburst shattered the silence, blowing up Tiger's concentration like a firecracker in a library. Woods flinched mid-backswing, his rhythm destroyed. His reaction? Pure, unfiltered rage. "No! What are you doing?" he snapped, turning toward the source like he was about to charge into the crowd himself. Security dragged the guy out, but the damage was done. Tiger was rattled. He still managed to keep the ball in play, but it wasn't the shot he needed. His last chance at a major slipped away, and Francesco Molinari walked away with the trophy. After the round, Woods didn't hold back. This wasn't just heckling. This was some wannabe activist hijacking a major moment in sports history. Next up, number 11. As you may know, golf has always prided itself on being a gentleman's game, a sport of etiquette, discipline, and self-control. But in 2019, Robert Garrigus shattered that image with a confession that absolutely no one saw coming. He wasn't caught up in some wild late-night scandal. He wasn't throwing clubs or picking fights with fans. No. His crime? Lighting up before tournaments. And if that kind of chaos keeps you entertained, you're gonna love what's coming next. I'm working my ass off to reach 20,000 subs before the end of the month. Please subscribe and help me make it happen. So, what happened with Robert? Well, the PGA Tour had just handed him a 3-month suspension for testing positive for marijuana. Most players in his position would lay low, issue a scripted apology, and disappear until the ban was over. But Garrigus, he went the other way. Instead of staying quiet, he went public, and he didn't hold back. He didn't just admit to smoking weed, he casually suggested he wasn't the only one. In an explosive interview, he claimed that multiple PGA Tour players were using marijuana. They just weren't getting caught. And to make things even more controversial, he flat out said it shouldn't be banned at all. To Robert, weed wasn't a performance enhancer. It was no different than alcohol. He even took shots at the PGA Tour's drug policy, pointing out that painkillers like OxyContin were allowed with a prescription, but marijuana, legal in many states, was still completely off limits. The tour wasn't amused. The golf world had always brushed off the idea of pro golfers getting high, but now, one of their own was saying it out loud. And just like that, a simple drug suspension turned into something much bigger. Now at number 10, Natalie Gulbis never one to shy away from drama, but her 2005 Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue shoot took things to another level. Posing in nothing but body paint, she blew up every traditional boundary in the sport, and the reactions were, let's say, intense. People were not ready for it. Fans were either losing their minds in admiration or straight up outraged. Some praised her for being bold and unapologetic, but others were fuming, saying she had taken things way too far for a professional golfer. It was as if a grenade went off in the conservative world of golf, leaving everyone in shock, scrambling to make sense of what they'd just witnessed. But Natalie didn't care. She's never played by the rules, and this wasn't her first time stirring things up. And then came her infamous 2004 calendar. This wasn't just your average calendar. It was packed with glamorous, sultry shots of Gulbis. The calendar was so controversial that the USGA stepped in and banned it from being sold at the US Women's Open, calling it too sexy for the course. That decision only added fuel to the fire, igniting a full-blown debate about women in sports and how far is too far when it comes to personal branding. It's safe to say that Gulbis's moves definitely shook up the conservative golf scene, making her a lightning rod for both criticism and admiration. Coming in at number 9, to a moment where Bryson DeChambeau proved that some things are worth standing up for, especially when they involve young fans. Bryson DeChambeau might be one of the most polarizing figures in golf, but even his biggest critics had to respect what he did. It was the final round, and the energy was electric. DeChambeau had just walked off the 9th green, heading toward the 10th tee, a long par 5 that played perfectly to his power game. Fans lined the ropes, hoping to catch a glimpse of the big hitter up close. Among them was a young boy, barely able to see over the barrier, eagerly watching his favorite player pass by. As a quick gesture of goodwill, DeChambeau tossed his ball toward the kid, a simple act that should have made his day. But just as the ball was about to reach its intended target, an older man in the crowd lunged forward and snatched it out of the air. The kid looked heartbroken, his excitement turned to shock. DeChambeau saw everything. He stopped mid-stride. The buzz of the crowd faded as all eyes turned to the unexpected standoff. Bryson wasn't having it. Right then and there, he called out the man, making it clear that the ball wasn't meant for him. After a few tense moments, the man gave in and handed it over. The young fan's face lit up, and the whole thing was caught on camera, quickly going viral. Moments like these remind us that golf isn't just about hitting a little white ball. It's also about the fans and the memories they take home from the course. And speaking of inappropriate moments, at number 8, we have a pair of golfers who found themselves in a situation they never saw coming. Think of it like this. You're flying to a golf tournament, minding your own business, when suddenly, the plane gets hijacked and rerouted to Cuba. Sounds like something out of a movie, right? Well, for LPGA star Barbara Romack and PGA Tour pro Mason Rudolph, this was their reality. In 1968, airplane hijackings were weirdly common, with flights being diverted to Cuba almost weekly. Romack was heading to Miami for a tournament when her plane was taken over mid-flight and forced to land in Havana. Cuban officials treated her well, and she later joked that she got more publicity from the hijacking than from any of her golf wins. Mason Rudolph wasn't as lucky. When his plane was hijacked later that same year, he found himself in a hilariously awkward situation, trying to explain to Cuban officials what a professional golfer was. Apparently, golf wasn't a big thing in Cuba, and Rudolph had a hard time convincing them that his job actually existed. These hijackings were part of a strange and chaotic time in aviation history, and it just goes to show that even golfers weren't safe from Cold War drama. Speaking of unexpected things flying through the air, at number 7, we have a club that became an extremely dangerous projectile. You expect to see a golf ball flying down the fairway, but a golf club? That's a whole different story. During the 2025 Sony Open at Waialae Country Club, Hideki Matsuyama stepped onto the 9th tee, a long par 5 where precision and power are key. The crowd was packed, eager to see the Masters champion unleash one of his signature drives. Matsuyama took his stance, gripped his driver, and with a fluid motion, he unleashed his swing. And that's when things went horribly wrong. As he powered through the ball, his hands lost control of the club. Instead of driving the ball down the fairway, his driver went soaring through the air like a missile, straight toward the spectators lining the hole. For a brief moment, there was a collective gasp from the crowd. Luckily, it struck the boundary rope, slowing its momentum before it could reach the spectators. Matsuyama, always known for his composure, rushed over to check on the spectators, offering a sincere apology. The fans, stunned but unharmed, laughed nervously, still processing how close they had come to an unexpected souvenir. And just when you thought the moment might rattle him, Matsuyama did what only the best in the world can do. He regrouped, refocused, and birdied the hole. At number 6, we have one of the weirdest interruptions in golf history. Golfers deal with all kinds of unexpected challenges, bad weather, tricky lies, even the occasional unruly fan. But this famous golfer, he had to deal with something really unexpected. It happened during the 2024 Alfred Dunhill Links Championship at Carnoustie, where the former soccer star, now an avid golfer, was enjoying a solid round. Standing just off the green, Gareth Bale carefully chipped his ball toward the hole, watching as it rolled to a stop near the pin. And then, out of nowhere, a dog named Jock sprinted onto the green. Before anyone could react, the playful pup grabbed Bale's golf ball in its mouth and proudly trotted away, tail wagging like it had just made the shot of the day. The crowd erupted in laughter, and even Bale couldn't help but smile as he watched the unexpected thief prance around with his golf ball as a trophy. The dog's owner quickly intervened, calling Jock back to return the ball. But by that point, the moment had already stolen the show. Fortunately, under Rule 9.6 of the Rules of Golf, any ball moved by an outside influence can be replaced without penalty. So, despite the canine interference, Bale simply placed his ball back where it originally was and continued his round. And speaking of funny moments, at number 5, We have a golfer who has made a career out of being unconventional, John Daly. No list of inappropriate golf moments would be complete without John Daly. The man is an icon in his own right, known for his booming drives, unpredictable antics, and total disregard for golf's more traditional ways. And in 2017, he gave us yet another classic Daly moment that had fans either laughing or shaking their heads. It happened at the Monday after the Masters charity event in Myrtle Beach. Instead of using a standard golf tee, Daly decided to place his ball on top of an unopened beer can. With a cigarette hanging from his lips and no shoes on, he stepped up, took a mighty swing, and sent the ball soaring down the fairway. Then, as if that wasn't enough, he picked up the can, cracked it open, and took a big swig. The crowd went absolutely nuts. People cheered, laughed, and pulled out their phones to record the moment. Daly was clearly having a blast, and let's be honest, this was peak John Daly. But while fans loved it, not everyone in the golf world was thrilled. Purists saw it as another example of Daly refusing to take the sport seriously, something that has followed him throughout his career. Love him or hate him, Daly has always done things his way. Which brings us to number 4, to a moment that showed just how emotional golf can be, sometimes a little too emotional. Back in 1999 at the World Match Play Championship, a 19-year-old Garcia was still making a name for himself. He was young, fearless, and full of raw talent. But on the 15th hole, frustration got the best of him in a way no one saw coming. It all started with a swing, one that went horribly wrong. As Garcia launched his tee shot, his back foot slipped, sending the ball veering wildly off course. A bad shot? Sure. But what happened next? No one was prepared for it. Instead of a sigh, a club slam, or a muttered curse, Garcia yanked off his right shoe and launched it across the course, sending it crashing into an advertising board. The crowd gasped, but that wasn't even the weirdest part. His manager, probably trying to save the situation, tossed the shoe back to him, but Garcia wasn't done. Instead of simply putting it back on, he swung his foot and kicked it again, this time narrowly missing the match referee. The scene was pure chaos, a mix of rage and comedy that left everyone watching in stunned disbelief. Meanwhile, his opponent, Retief Goosen, barely reacted. He stayed locked in, unfazed by the flying footwear drama, and went on to win the match. But that day, the scoreboard didn't matter. Everyone left talking about one thing: Sergio Garcia's epic shoe meltdown. Sliding into our top 3 of the most inappropriate moments list, it was a Thursday afternoon at the Solheim Cup, and Charlie Hull was turning heads, not just with her impressive play, but also with her confident presence on the course. She was in the middle of her practice round, just going through her routine. But then, something totally unexpected happened. Instead of heading straight to the next hole like everyone thought she would, Charlie suddenly changed direction, catching everyone. She was walking toward a cluster of spectators. At first, it seemed like she might be signing autographs mid-round, a rare but exciting move. But as she approached, Charlie pulled a fan aside, leaned in, and casually asked, "Do you have a lighter?" The fan, caught off guard but willing to oblige, fumbled in his pocket, found a lighter, and fired up her cigarette right there on the course. Charlie took a drag, unfazed, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. It's moments like these that make Hull so intriguing. She plays by her own rules, and if that includes a smoke break, so be it. Here at number 2, we have a golf course invasion that looked less like a sporting event and more like the start of an Australian nature documentary gone wrong. Golf courses have seen all kinds of unexpected visitors: birds, squirrels, even the occasional alligator. But in March 2024, at the Heritage Golf and Country Club in Melbourne, players were interrupted by something that no golf etiquette book could ever prepare them for: a full-blown kangaroo stampede. It started like any normal round of golf. Players were focused, taking their shots, minding their business. But then, the ground started to tremble. Out of nowhere, an army of kangaroos came charging across the fairway like they were late for a very important orgy. Golfer Stephen Roche, caught mid-swing, did what any brave man would do. He whipped out his phone and started recording, yelling, "It's a stampede," instead of, running for his life. The video blew up online, with people around the world questioning whether golf had suddenly turned into a full-contact sport. In Australia, kangaroos wandering onto golf courses isn't exactly shocking, but an entire gang of them pulling a full-on drive-by? That's a different story. Luckily, no one was hurt, except maybe the egos of the golfers who had to awkwardly wait for their new furry overlords to clear the course. Which brings us to our number one moment, where Bryson DeChambeau got a little too up close and personal with nature, and somehow turned a single insect into one of the most bizarre rule debates in golf history. Now, Bryson is known for overthinking just about everything on the golf course. But at the 2020 WGC FedEx St. Jude Invitational, he took things to a whole new level. One that had fans wondering if he was actually serious or just messing with everyone. It happened on the 7th hole. Bryson's tee shot landed near the base of a tree. Nothing crazy, just an awkward lie. But then, he froze. His eyes locked on something on the ground, and before anyone could figure out what he was doing, he called over a rules official. Now, when a player calls in a rules official, you expect something serious. Maybe an unplayable lie, maybe a dangerous situation. But what did Bryson complain about? A fire ant. Yes, one single fire ant. And here's where things got truly ridiculous. With a completely straight face, Bryson tried to argue that this tiny, unsuspecting ant constituted a dangerous animal condition. You know, the rule meant for things like rattlesnakes, alligators, and swarms of bees, not one ant. But Bryson wanted relief from his lie, basically arguing that this ant was so terrifying that he shouldn't have to hit his shot near it. The rules official, probably trying not to laugh in his face, denied the request immediately. No, Bryson, one ant is not a dangerous animal. Clearly frustrated, he had to suck it up and play the ball as it lay, and then promptly made a double bogey. Social media exploded. Fans joked that Bryson was trying to intimidate an ant, or worse, that he had some kind of weird personal vendetta against the poor thing. Broadcasters struggled to keep it together, and the Bryson ant rule became an instant meme. Oh, and now you're still here, let me introduce you to this other great video, right in the middle of the screen. Enjoy.